Hey guys, it's Ryan here, and this is another episode of Blockchain Markets. And today I'm bringing to you what I believe is one of the most interesting projects I've seen in a long time. I mean, I see a lot of projects, I read a lot of white papers, I go through a lot of different websites, but this one, I can tell you, is one of the most exciting ones I've seen. It's the last day in the ICO, so I just wanted to bring it to you guys before it ends. So of course, you can take the decision if you want to join it or not. So this is what I'll be covering today is Quant Overledger. So let's begin. So before we begin, I'd like to thank all of you that have been subscribing to the channel. I'm overwhelmed at how fast is everything going, and I get a lot of messages from people asking me for me to cover this or that project, and it's much more than I can actually cover. But thank you very much, guys, for joining the community and building this, which is an independent. What we want to create is a community of crypto investors that has an independent view. So thank you very much, and if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel so you can get the next videos, and share this video with other people so more people can know about crypto investment and blockchain technology. So without further ado, let's start with Quant. As I said, this is one of the most interesting projects I've seen in a long time. Because it tackles one of the most important problems that crypto has at the moment, or blockchain has at this moment. So at the moment, you have a lot of these protocols like Cardano, Neo, Stellar, Hyperledger, IOTA, and many others, EOS, Ethereum. And then the problem is that a lot of them are like, or all of them actually, are like little islands. So you have the Neo ecosystem that doesn't really talk to Hyperledger or Cardano, for example. So if we move forward a couple of years from now, and then we see that big companies, let's say a bank, is going to use the blockchain technology, they're most likely not to just pick one project. Because what if they go for Ethereum? Maybe they won't for Ethereum actually because of the low performance. But let's say they pick a Neo, and then after a while they're gonna think that the risk, or before actually picking them, they're gonna assess the risk, and then they're gonna see that is a single point of failure actually, because what if Neo, there's a problem with Neo, what if something happens? Maybe they say it works perfectly, but what if something happens with that? And they have all their clients, I mean that bank has all their information for clients in that blockchain. It's too much of a risk to take for them. So they're most likely to go for a mix and pick, let's say, they maybe think that Neo by then is able to achieve like a sufficient amount of transactions per second, so that when they create a dApp, they would like to use that part of Neo, but maybe they like the compliance of Cardano. Maybe they like other things of Hyperledger, for example. And then at the moment, it's not, on the one hand, it's not possible for all those protocols to communicate. And on the other hand, it's difficult for companies to decide on only one. So because it would be good for them that they can decide on different ones and combine. So this is exactly what Quant is doing. If we read here in the header, it says Overledger, the first blockchain operating system that facilitates the development of multi-chain applications. So now you might think, okay, but we know that interoperability is something that a lot of these protocols are working on. So then Cardano has it as one of the main things to focus on, and Neo as well, and other projects as well. Of course, all of them know that this is a problem, that they have to be able to communicate with each other. But in the case of Quant, is and think of this. So then think of the first layer. You can see it. Think of the first layer, all these different silos of different protocols: Cardano, Neo, Stellar, Hyperledger, Ethereum, and then on top of that, think of Quant Overledger. So then developers can develop on this layer and then pick and choose from any of those protocols without having to just go for only one. That in terms of risk, that eliminates completely the risk of a one point of failure, which is what is exactly the reason why big corporations are not really using these technologies. Also because they're very new yet. But we're talking a couple of years from now, when all these technologies get actually implemented by companies, by big companies. So that's the main thing that they are planning to do. Basically, creating an overledger, like the name says, a layer that runs on top of all the protocols. That basically they want to become the OS, the operational system for the blockchain. Now let's move forward. Let's. I'm not going to cover they have, as I said at the beginning, it's the last day, so you still have 15 hours to join the token sale. You can also go and check the video. It says basically what I'm saying now. But let's go through the vision, which I think it's very bold, actually, and I think it's very interesting. So in the first hand, what I just mentioned is enabling the connections between different blockchains. But also is creating a platform for multi-chain applications. What does that mean, actually? So at the moment you have dApps, decentralized applications that run on Neo, that run on Ethereum, blah, blah, blah. They run on their own, on one single blockchain. So with Overledger, actually, all these developers will be able to just upgrade that dApp they created, and then they'll be making a map, which is the map is what they call what they call a dApp in I'll just have to see what the acronym actually means. The M, I don't know what the M stands for. I'll check it out. I'll put it in the description of the video. But basically, if you are a developer and then you develop something on Ethereum, a dApp, then you, by using Quant Overledger, then you're able to upgrade that app, that dApp, and to be able to be used and then pull information and then push information to any of the other blockchains, which is very important for developers. And the other thing which comes a bit later in the vision of in the roadmap of Quant, which is part of this super interesting, is connecting the internet to blockchain. So basically now you have the internet on the one hand that is not really communicating to the blockchain as a whole. So by doing that, they're not only creating a layer on top of all and connecting all the blockchains into one Overledger, but they're also connecting this internet world to all these blockchains, separate blockchains. So they basically will be the connector between these two super powerful tech worlds, and that's massive. So let's go a bit through the problem. I'll already mention it, but let's go and then see exactly how they say what the problem is and how they're going to tackle it. So the major limitation of modern day blockchain is the inability of blockchains to communicate with one another. That's what I mentioned. And consider this. So why can't a smart contract executed on Ethereum be recognized by the Hyperledger blockchain? And that's exactly the point. So now you might think that this is a lot of tech talk, and it's not very, it doesn't apply to reality. But let's see a couple of examples. Let's see, I travel to the US. Let's say I'm based in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. So let's say I travel to the US, and then when I go to there's an app that reads my biometrical information, and that knows already who I am. So then I don't have to go in there when I go to the Amsterdam airport. I don't have to show my passport and then stay in line for a long time. I just can go through, and then it reads my biometrical information, and then I just go through, and then the customer experience is very goes very seamlessly, and then it's very good experience. And that's in Amsterdam. Now I arrive to New York, and then I have to go through the whole process there in New York again. Why? Because Amsterdam airport is using Cardano and blockchain, and the airport of New York is using Neos blockchain, and those blockchains are not communicating well. Now within those companies, they might use Cardano for one thing, and maybe Stellar for something different. On the other side, they might be using several blockchains as well that internally are not communicating, and even less externally. So how can we make the whole experience very smooth, and how it should be actually? Well, by communicating those protocols, and by enabling the communication, seamless communication between those protocols. So when I go through Amsterdam, I have in the airport, they capture my information, and that sends a signal to New York. So when I go there, I don't have to go and then go through the whole process. Now let's put another example. So let's say I'm in South Africa, and I want to go and study in Germany. So what I have to do is basically go to my university, ask for my diploma, then get it certified also by the South African state. Then I just go, and I have to apply first to Germany. I have to send that information, and then I have to do all that information again. Once I send it, I have to wait, and then they have to trust that the information from the local government in South Africa is correct. That I actually did study what I said I studied, so I can apply for that master's degree in that university in Germany. Now, let's say that so there is some friction there, then they have to always confirm that what I'm saying is actually true, my local government. And there's a lot of things in between, a lot of paperwork, and a lot of authorities and the universities involved in the process. If all that would be put in a single point, where like a blockchain, if all that information would be in the blockchain, that would be much easier to use. Now, let's say, or to find also. Let's say that later on I'd like to stay in Germany and look for a job. Now they're going to have to go through the whole process again, check my my diploma. Let's say I studied something with finance, and I applied to a bank there. And then the bank wants to check that I actually studied business and economics in South Africa, and then I actually did that other thing in studies in Germany. And then you see again the same process again. They had to ask a lot of authorities, a lot of paperwork from me. Then I had to go to the consulate of South Africa in Germany and request that information, which costs time and money. Also a lot of money, all these things cost. Now let's say the next step is that they actually start implementing some blockchain technology. And now we have the same problem that it is actually better than before, but we have the same problem that we had in the example of the airports. Now, the local authorities in Germany might use, the immigration or authorities might use Stellar as a blockchain, and the South African Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is where I request, or I have to send my information about to get their stamp saying that I actually did study what I said I studied. Then those guys use Hyperledger, for example. And you see we have the same problem again. They don't communicate. So with Hyperledger, with Overledger, we can get those two blockchains communicating, and then we solve actually that big problem. Now let's move on. Yeah, coming back to the point of I said I would put in the description what MAPS stand for. It's actually multi-chain applications. I see it here. So going back, it's basically Overledger has the ability to unlock and distribute value and applications across current and future blockchains. So they're blockchain agnostic. They can plug and play with any existing or potential blockchain. And there are a lot of new blockchains coming. I'll be talking also in a new video about a new project which is called Quark Chain. It's also very interesting. But now, at the moment, we have a lot of different projects, and then they just simply don't communicate. As I say here, they're an agnostic platform. And this is something important than the scalability, because what they say here, when you run an application, maybe you just you are a developer and then you decide to go for Ethereum because you don't mind learning Solidity because it's not that difficult, and because you like the community side of Ethereum. You like the documentation. You like that all the documentation is in English, so you can actually ask the community and then you can find information. But maybe by then, high performance blockchain, HPB or A-chain, is able to run much faster and then scale much faster than Ethereum. So you basically can create it on Ethereum. And then with by using Quant Overledger, you can create your dApp on Ethereum, but you can also leverage the fact that this other blockchain has a much better performance, so you can also run it on that, or by upgrading your dApp to the Overledger. Now, there are a lot of use cases, but what Quant Overledger is focusing, it's in some specific verticals. So, or more than verticals, I would say it's some use cases. They're going big. So they're not going for the small companies to test. Their target group is enterprises, big enterprises. I just looked for an interview that the CEO gave to blockchain Brad, you should check out. I'll just leave the link also below. It's a very interesting um, AMA that he did with blockchain Brad. So then they're basically going for enterprises, so big banks, big corporations, individuals. So then they want to basically, as it says here, facilitate human-to-human and machine-to-machine trust that ensures safe and secure transactions with one another. And the other thing is also healthcare, and we see also some applications for nowadays for healthcare, like medical .care, or there was this new project called I think it was medical chain, something like that, that are basically tackling the problem of information and healthcare from different points. So they might be using something like different blockchains. At the moment, they just have to pick one. But that's also in an industry where a lot of these applications will be very useful. And of course, governments. As you see, the two examples that I just gave a couple of minutes ago, the airport and then the immigration and international studies and all, those are basically not just big companies involved in that, but there are also governments involved in this. And as you know, the big corporations and governments move very slowly. So then they need something that is not. The problem is that now there are a lot of projects that they approach the enterprise and governments thinking that blockchain is so awesome that they need to adapt to them. So, and I don't think these companies are going to do that. I think that the way they're going to get blockchain is going to get adoption is because the platforms adapting to the use cases that the enterprise and governments actually are looking for. So then there's no way in hell that the bank ING here will say to me, as a, let's say I'm a blockchain, I'm the CEO of a blockchain protocol, and I approach ING. ING is one of the biggest banks in the world, and I go to the office here in Amsterdam, to the headquarters, and I say, hey, I have this protocol, and it's going to solve a lot of your problems, but yeah, you need to adapt to the way we think you should. You need to adapt to us. You need to adapt to our technology. They're just gonna look at me and they're gonna say like, yeah, whatever. We're not gonna do it. We're not gonna adapt all our huge company to your small project because it might have a big impact to us. Maybe it doesn't. So then they're gonna be very reluctant to apply my technology. But now if I go to them and say that, hey guys, I have this thing that is it's a technology that is agnostic. You can use any blockchain that you want. You can use the best of every of those blockchains to create the best applications and that will be able to be scalable, have good user experience. The developers will have all the documentation in the language they need, and then we'll adapt to the way you do things here at ING. So then that's the way they will be open to start using our system, and that's exactly what Overledger is planning to do, is approaching these big corporations and saying, we'll adapt to the way you do businesses. So I think that's a very clever approach. And I'd like to go to the team now to show you why I think it's that approach, I think, comes because of the management. I think if you go and then you see the top management, you see that they have a lot of experience in not just tech, but a lot of in companies and in big corporations and in government. So they do have the chance to get and talk to them and then say, and they have this good approach of telling them, we'll adapt to you. What is this? Or from okay. Um, so the team, as I mentioned, yeah, Gilbert on the one hand, the CEO, has a lot of experience in cybersecurity. He was in both sides, in big banks, corporations, and also on the government side. So he knows both sides of the game. The chief strategy, Paulo Tasca, has also a lot of experience in blockchain, and then he actually is the head of the Center for Blockchain Technologies, which is a organization which is in one of the biggest blockchain organizations in London. And of course, the CTO has a lot of experience as well in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. And I think the other thing that is very interesting about the team, I'm not going to go through all of them. You can click on this, and then it shows all the complete team. But what I've heard from Gilbert Verdian is that they're planning their approach, which I think is good also, is not to look for very specialized blockchain people that have just a couple of years experience in Solidity. No, they're taking their approach and saying, well, we'll look for good developers that have the knowledge and the experience and several years of experience in, let's say, C# or in Java. And they have done some projects that are really interesting in this sphere, in the financial and government. And I mean, those guys don't need to know blockchain now. If they're clever, they'll figure it out. They'll learn it, and then they'll give them the space to learn, which I think is the right approach. Because, as you all know, finding developers nowadays is really difficult. And finding blockchain developers is way more difficult. So a good approach also for other projects, if you're listening and you have a blockchain project, a good approach is to hire people that have experience as a software developer, and then let them train themselves to learn about cryptography and game theory and blockchain in general. So then you can hire people that are good in software development and then let them learn within the job. So then it's a win-win for both. And that's the approach they're taking. So I think it's also very interesting. I think it's the right approach as well. I'll go back now and finish with the token sale. As I said, it will be still available for like 15 more hours, and the token sale is $0.16 per token, and I believe it's 1 billion tokens, but I have to check. I'll put it in the description as well. Let's check if they say something on here. $15 million and 16 million. Yeah, so the total amount available will be 31 million tokens. Let's see if we can get an overview here. Quant tokenomics. Let's check this document. So 1 ETH is 687. What as I said is roughly $0.16. So they sold in the pre-TGE is 15 million, and now, yeah, as I said, the total amount available will be 31 million tokens. And then how will be the token used? Basically for getting access to the platform. So when you want to use, let's say you are a developer and you want to use and upgrade your dApp that runs on Ethereum, you want to upgrade it to a map, so a multi-chain application, then you have to pay it with the Quant token, QNT. And that's the way these guys or the token will be used, and of course it will gain in value. So as an overall, I'm very positive about this project. If you don't have the time to join now the token sale, it's okay. Of course, just look at it when it comes back to the market. They will be releasing the tokens at the end of June. So I'll be posting something on Twitter at the time, so you can also join it from directly from when it hits an exchange. The overall impression is very good, and I think have I invested in this project? Not yet. I'm just waiting for a couple of more hours because I want to find a bit more information on the exchanges. There's only one concern that I have, which is let's talk first about the opportunities, and then I'll tell you my concern and why I haven't invested yet. The opportunities, I think, is huge. It's a big problem that the blockchain space really needs now. The interoperability, not just between two different blockchains, but it needs a super layer that runs on top of all the blockchains, something like the internet is with the different websites. The problem is really there, and it's big, and they tackle it very well. The team is super experienced. They have a lot of experience in cybersecurity and in enterprise, especially in financial sector and in governmental sector as well. So there, of course, I'm very I trust that the team will be able to deliver on their promises. And my only concern is about the exchanges. One of the, if you see in the interview that was was done with Blockchain Brad, then the CEO says in one part that they're not really looking to, because this is not an investment technically, they're not really looking to put it, then not in a rush to put the token in exchanges. So that's my concern, because if I do it, I want to get a return on, as any of you guys, when we invest in, even though we know these are utility tokens, at the end of the day, we hope that we get a return on that investment. And a way to get return on that investment is that the token has, when the token hits the exchanges. Now, as you many have seen, then there are projects that are very interesting, but they just hit, like, they don't put much effort in listing in important exchanges, so then the token doesn't do well, and then it just plummets. Which is what happened. For example, you can check what happened to BitDegree, which is, I think, a clever project. It's basically a decentralized education specifically for tech stuff, so like a decentralized Udemy. But they just decided to focus only on the technology and the technology only. without paying much attention to the listings. And then when they listed, they just listed in very small exchanges. So then the token doesn't went down like 90%, and it's still low. So that's my only concern, that if I understand that the Quant team is looking at making the best technology in the blockchain space. They're not a blockchain; it's a project. They're operational system. But I understand they're trying to make the best platform, the best technology, and then that the second or third concern of them is the token and how much value it will gain in the for investors. But I think they should put a bit more effort on that and listen more to the community on which exchanges should they look for. Now, the CEO is running an AMA tomorrow on the 2nd of May. So I'll be listening to that, and then depending on that, I'll be investing or not. I already passed the KYC, so that's something that you can do today if you want to be in time. You can join the KYC, and I have a video on YouTube on how to do the process and how to pass the KYC in just like 8 minutes. If they can confirm that the information is true. So, as I said, very bullish on this project. My only concern is the attention they will put to investors and how and which and when they're going to list everything on which exchanges. So that's all for this episode, guys. Hit the like button if you like this analysis on this project on Quant Overledger. Join the community, subscribe, and tell other people, so then we can all have discussions in our community on which projects we should be investing on, which projects are not good and we should avoid, so we can all identify them when they are at the very beginning, and then we can all make money, but in an independent way, without having people to tell us what to do. So then always, this is not financial advice. Just take this as my contribution to the community. So you just take it from here and go on and do your research. This is only one part of your whole research process. That's it, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers. Bye, guys.